So why do people even do consulting if the point is just a switch?
You learn so much in a very short period of time. You're exposed to very strategic thinking, difficult and complex analyses, intense stakeholder management situations. It's like intense boot camp. You go into this boot camp, you develop a lot, and then it sets you up well to succeed in many other areas of your life. It's different from typical 9-to-5 corporate because one, you're not working 9 to 5. You work a lot of hours, you're working at a much faster pace, intense environment, because I was just so exhausted from consulting. In terms of financials, my income as a project leader around 300,000 USD pre-tax.
That's a really, really good salary. Did it ever come to your mind like, I could just keep on this train into my 30s and 40s and make millions?
Well,
3, 2, 1, liftoff.
Kelly, you were 25, leading million-dollar projects at BCG, living what looked like the dream. When did you first realize it wasn't your dream and you had to build your own thing?
When I joined consulting, I never expected to stay in consulting for a very long time. Most people who enter consulting, they stay for about 2 to 4 years. I would say most of the people I started off with, they have already left a firm before the 4-year mark. And for me, I actually stayed in the firm for about 6 years, almost 6 years. That's longer than what most people would have stayed. I always knew that I would want to go into consulting and learn a lot from the job and use it as a bit of a boot camp and platform to go and do something else. I didn't imagine, oh, this is my first job out of undergrad and this is the job that I would want to stay in for the rest of my life. Like, I never imagined that. So it was definitely my dream to get into consulting as a full-time job from school because I wanted, again, the learning experience, I wanted the exposure, but it was never my dream to say, I want to be in consulting for life. So I checked off the dream of entering consulting, and then I knew that I wanted to try something different. Now, when it comes to content and what I'm doing now, I've always been so interested in anything digital content related, right? Like, I had Tumblr when I was younger. I used to make MapleStory music videos. I love photography and the arts, and it was always a passion of mine. I was obsessed with being a fashion and travel Instagram influencer back in the OG days of Instagram when it was pictures only. And that was my dream. But I decided to do the whole business thing, do the consulting thing. And I ended up staying there for 6 years before doing what I'm doing now in the world of content.
So why do people even do consulting if the point is just a switch? Like, what is the point of doing consulting for just a few years and then doing something else?
It's similar to fields like investment banking too, because you learn so much in a very short period of time. It's different from a typical 9-to-5 corporate because one, you're not working 9 to 5. You're working like 9 to 9, 9 to 11, maybe 9 to 1 a.m. And you work a lot of hours. You're working at a much faster pace. You're exposed to very strategic thinking, difficult and complex analyses, intense stakeholder management situations, teaming, collaboration, a lot of these topics, a lot of very important topics squeezed in into very intense hours, then very long hours, and you're learning from very excellent, capable people as well. So overall, it's like intense boot camp. And you go into this boot camp, you develop a lot, and then it sets you up well to succeed in many other areas of your life afterwards, no matter what it is you do. And once you have the brand name and essentially the check mark on your resume, you can be accepted to interview with many other firms. If you're trying to start a startup, you have a bit more credibility as well. If you're looking for co-founders, if you want to go into whether it's corporate or a startup or anything, they'll be more likely to give you the opportunity to join their firm and give you the opportunity to interview and everything because they see that you had that experience.
You mentioned how you were never planning on staying in consulting long term. So why did you leave right at the 6-year mark? And why did you decide to do content instead of something else?
The 6-year mark was surprising to me. I thought I would leave at the 2-year mark, or maybe even 1-year mark. I don't know. So the reason why I did not leave at the 2-year mark is because that's when I got my first promotion. I definitely wanted my first promotion at the earliest window possible too. I was very like hyena-like about it because it was my first promotion, first real life job in this intense environment. I wanted to just prove to myself that I could do it and do it really well. I got my first promotion, decided to stay a bit longer. Fun fact, yeah, your like life becomes a lot better after that promotion because you're like that big stressor is gone. Your salary increases by a lot. You have a bit more credibility now at a firm. And I wanted to stay for maybe 1 year after that. Then I was also thinking about things like, do I want to do my MBA? Do I want to change roles? During that time, the pandemic hit. And because of the pandemic and people weren't really moving to different countries, I thought, well, maybe I should, put quitting on a hold because it's not like I can recruit and physically move away right now anyway. And I was on a good project at the time. It was a good long project. So I continued on a little bit longer. Fast forward a little bit, we're still kind of in the pandemic period. The pandemic is easing up. I really thought about leaving at that point. But then my career advisor at the firm, they said, hey, I know you want to go and explore a different country. I know that you might not feel like Toronto is home for you. So fun fact, I was in the Canadian office for the first couple of years of my career before I moved to New York. So that's why my career advisor said, I know that Canada, you don't really feel like you want to stay here long term. If you want to apply for somewhere like New York and do an office transfer, I think you can do it and try if you want to. It's better than leaving the firm. And that was great. I thought, well, why don't we just try if we get accepted by the New York office? That's wonderful because I would get a lot of visa support, relocation support, and at least within the firm, it's still a familiar job. I applied to the New York office, got the transfer approved, permanent transfer to New York. Then I transferred to New York. Of course, I would want to stay a little bit longer after the transfer. That's also when I was promoted to be a manager, so a project leader at BCG. And I thought that I would want to stay for more managerial experience too.
Do you wish you quit earlier?
That's a really good question. And I think that in life, you walk so many different paths, and every one of these decisions, even though it seems like a small decision, could actually significantly change the trajectory, right? It's like if you're steering a plane, if you go and change that angle by just 0.00 something, but over the course of hours, you end up somewhere totally different in terms of destination. I think that's what would have happened to me if I quit earlier. I think that where I am today would look very different because of that one small angle change. And it's hard to say since I don't know what would have happened. I think if I quit earlier, I likely would have recruited to do a corporate job, and maybe I would still be in that corporate job right now. And maybe I wouldn't be doing career content stuff. Or maybe if I quit earlier, I would have had more time to spend on the fashion side, fashion and travel and lifestyle side of my content. Maybe I would be doing content in a completely different category right now. Maybe I would have taken advantage of the TikTok viral dances and now I would be a famous TikToker. I don't know, right? Like so many things can happen. So I don't think I regret it because it's just going to be different. And I think that the extra bit of time I spent being a project leader actually really boosted my competence and confidence in more ways than even the first 4 years at BCG did. Because the first 4 years I was managing things, but I was not in an official project leadership role. And I think being in that different level of intensity and managing a lot of teams and clients and being in that forefront, that was really helpful for me.
When you quit, you mentioned that you took a year off. So what were the financials behind that situation? Like, did you just have a lot of savings and you were like, F it, I'm just going to take a year off? Or was there some other part of the picture there?
Yeah. The financials, yes, people need to think about this for sure. What BCG does that's very helpful, whether you quit or you are transitioned out of the firm, they have this transition period where you can keep your laptop, your benefits, and you can elect to have 3 months of full pay or 6 months of half pay. and 6 months of half pay after you are taxed at a lower amount because it's, half pay for the entire year instead of the full pay for the entire year. It's half pay for 6 months instead of full pay for the entire year. So your like tax brackets are a little bit different too. Anyways, it's still like a decent chunk of money. So there's that. And I also did have savings, yes. I mean, I felt like financially I was comfortable. I was also traveling to places like Cape Town, South Africa. Like I wasn't living in New York the entire time. Running through New York burn. So I financially was like, well, I can live a very comfortable life for minimum 1 year, even more than 1 year without any income, like any additional income beyond savings plus the BCG transition dollars. And the content stuff actually started driving more revenue within that year for me. And that's also when I realized, oh, this could actually end up being something that's sustainable.
So if you're open about the financials, like, I guess, what was the salary you were paid when you quit BCG? And then kind of roughly how much did you have as a runway and savings that gave you the confidence that it was like, okay, I can quit? And did you have a timeline, like a deadline? I have 9 months, 10 months, 11 months to make this work? Or what was all those details there?
I would encourage people to think about these details in more in depth than I did. I was like, let's leave things up to fate and let me just quit and explore first. And I needed some breath of fresh air to even think about what to do next, because I think it's very difficult to think about what do I want to do when I'm in this intense job that doesn't give me enough time to explore or even energy to like think about, oh, what other work do I want to do? Because when you're so exhausted and burnt out, you're like, what work do I want to do? Like, I don't want to work at all. Like, I just want to go for like a lifestyle, relaxed corporate job, right? Like work 9 to 5 barely. Like, that's why I was craving, because I was just so exhausted from consulting. So I for sure wanted to give myself more headspace to think about that. With that said though, in terms of financials, my income as a project leader, I think it was about anything around like the 225 to 235-ish, plus or minus a little bit. Because I think that with inflation and like as you go into year 2, it's a little bit higher too. So I think the base was about like let's say like anything between like 225 to 240. And then the bonus could be up to say like 50 or more % of your base. Depends on your own performance. So with the bonus and everything you're looking at, let's say it's like around 300,000 USD pre-tax.
Nice. That's a lot. That's a really, really good salary. So when you were considering quitting, did it ever come to your mind, like, I have such a good income right now, I could just keep on this train into my 30s and 40s and make millions? Like, why stop that and do your own thing?
Yeah, because again, like consulting was not my dream, right? You live one life, and it's not like I can't make this level of money in other positions. You can actually make that level of income in corporate, no problem too, if you're a senior enough. Like you can do like in FANG companies, like these engineers, like everyone, right? Like you can find those salaries, especially like at a slightly senior level. It wasn't about like I didn't feel like, oh, there's no way I'm ever going to make this kind of salary again, right? Like I feel like if I wanted to, I could. And it's just about what do I want to do with this one life that I have. And I'm not going to kill myself to stay in consulting and grind that out in this field that I've already done 6 years in without ever trying something different. I think, honestly, the grind aside in consulting, if I knew that that was my dream, I would have stayed. Because even on the tough days, I'm still really motivated. It's like I'm not scared of working hard. It's more like I didn't want to work that hard for something that I knew wasn't my dream. And for that very reason alone, that consulting was my first and only job from school. I needed to try something else. That's why I just had to leave. And when it comes to like considering about like savings and runway and like everything, I think between like savings plus the BCG transition dollars, if I didn't work for a few years, I think I would be okay. So I felt like mental wise comfort in that. And I know for a fact if I want to go into corporate or even work at a startup in a creator economy, like that's all fine. And if I wanted to leave New York City and do digital nomad stuff at a place that's really low cost, I was actually really open to that too. So in my head, I had all these levers where, let's say if I actually made no income for 2 years and I got a job that maybe didn't pay as much as BCG, maybe I can just go and live in Asia for a little bit. And I think that would have been a really cool experience. I don't need to like drain like, so much crazy dollars in New York City if like I didn't necessarily make enough, right? That's what I was thinking too, because the alternatives are also awesome. I would love an experience in Southeast Asia, right? Like Bangkok for a year or two. Super cool. Meet a lot of expats, lots of European expats, other like Australians and like Southeast Asians. Awesome. So I felt very at peace with it. But I know not everyone can be in this situation. Not everyone has this kind of flexible timeline. So of course, put a lot of thought into this, right? And then in terms of like what made me start my own thing, I didn't expect to make content in the career space whatsoever. It kind of happened naturally. I was making content for fun. I thought I would do fashion and travel content. Even if it didn't go anywhere, I thought that I would just have fun doing it for the year. But what took off was whenever I talked about consulting or career stuff, those pieces of content did kind of well. And I pushed on a little bit more. And my account right now is still very small. I don't think my account is a big account at all. Like it's like objectively still very new. I'm still very much still new to the content space and still learning. But even then, I felt like I could add some value to this space. I was getting good engagement from the audience. It's an area where I can have more credibility and lend my experiences in. It's not as saturated as fashion and travel, more easily monetizable, more revenue streams too. So I thought, wow, maybe I should give this a try. And I really like the creator economy world too. I love content. And that's how Kelly Career Mode was created and born. It was during that 12 months of me freshly leaving consulting. I took it a bit month by month of, I have actually no idea how much income, if any, I will generate. Then from these inbounds that were coming in, slowly, things started ramping up and rolling up. And I realized, wait, I can actually make decent income from doing this, even with my very small account right now. Let's continue.
So if you're talking to someone who's a consultant, or just working in a corporate job or something like that, would you recommend they stick it out to the 5 to 7 year mark where they're promoted 1 or 2 times, they're a bit more senior, and then quit to do their own thing? Or should they just quit earlier? Or should they not even go into corporate and just try to start their brand or side hustle from day one?
All those paths are viable. This is such a consultant answer, but no, genuinely, there is no right path for doing this because what people want will change. So maybe before you even go into your corporate life, like maybe you're still in school, you're like still in college, and you have this amazing idea. You can't wait to work on it. You are working on this. You are getting some initial traction. Things are growing. You want to see how far you can take it. That might be the right time for you to keep building it, right? Maybe you feel like, I'm not really sure what I want to do. I want to do entrepreneurship, but I don't have a solid idea that I'm working on right now. I for sure see the benefit in getting the structured experience from corporate and the mentorship from whether it's tech or consulting or whatever it is, because you're learning from a lot of experienced veterans in a structured environment. And so maybe you go into that first. And as you're working in that, you think about, well, is entrepreneurship the right thing for me? Do I want to try something else? Maybe it makes sense for me to join a startup too, because then you can see how startups work for growing something from initial idea over into something much bigger. And that's more relevant for your experience because in consulting, we work with many very established clients. So a lot of the skills are transferable, but we're not like in a startup environment. Or so then maybe you go in and you work a couple of years. And if you felt like, well, I enjoy consulting and time just slipped and inertia happened. And now I'm actually 5 or 7 years into a job like me. And now I want to do something different. That's also okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there are many paths to Rome, right? Like someone can go straight into it, someone can work a few years, and someone can work a lot of years and still be successful. In my experience, I was on the earlier end of that, meaning like I left after my first year in software engineering. So I didn't end up staying long term. But my perspective was very similar where I thought okay, I literally make content about getting a job in tech. If I really want to, I could probably get a job in tech.
Yes.
Like, I could definitely do it. I would not be surprised about that, right? So at that point, I was still young. I was only like 22 or something. So I was like, okay, everybody else is doing their masters right now. I can just move in with my parents and just like sleep in my childhood bed, and nobody's gonna care for a year.
Yeah.
So that was the timeline I gave myself. I gave myself a year to basically go and figure things out. And by the end of that year, if I could not sustain myself, I would have gone back and gone like another software engineering job. But I totally agree. My opinion on this is actually like, now is the best time for the most part. There's usually not going to be a better opportunity in the future where there's less things, less commitments, less responsibilities. Because as you age, usually responsibility only goes up, right? You're married, you have kids, you have a lot more expenses and stuff like that. Only maybe when you're in your 40s or your 50s or 60s, responsibility actually drops down. So if the person listening to this is in at any stage of their career, like whether they're entry level, mid-level, senior, 20s, 30s, now is a great time to get started building your side hustle and building your business. Now, my opinion on this is also that you don't have to quit immediately. Like, I know for your story, and we can talk about it, is you left before starting your side hustle. I usually recommend people, and this is what I did, is like work on it on the side for like 6 months, maybe 6 to 12 months, evenings, weekends. See once you get some traction, and then at that point you can leave and go all in. So speaking of that, what was your story? So you quit in January of 2024. You said you spent about 6 to 7 months traveling on the BCG exit salary, basically. When did you actually start your Instagram, and what were the early days with that like?
Yeah. And before I jump in, also very kudos to you for making those 12 months work. That's amazing, right? For your story that you shared.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So yeah, kudos. Yes. For me, I actually quit like end of January. Like I say quit, but I didn't actually officially quit and leave the firm until end of July. And it was end of January. I sent, the couple emails to officially roll off the project that I was on. I drove things to completion, clean wrap up, and I got on the flight to South Africa that same day. Like I was sending my final project emails at the lounge, waiting for my flight to take off. And then I was off on my way to go to Cape Town. I booked like the first few nights of the Airbnb there. I had no idea what it would look like. I did minimal research. I'm like, yeah, let's just surprise myself. I don't really know what the city, the town, this like overall South Africa country looks like. Minimal research. And yeah, then I bought a one-way ticket to go.
That's pretty crazy though. Like, did you just randomly pick Cape Town? Like, what was the plan there specifically?
I know it's a beautiful place. Many people, especially my friends from Europe, love Cape Town. I've heard really great things about how there are wineries, beaches, like good food. I purposely didn't do that much research because I think it's kind of fun to just go somewhere and just be a bit surprised. So that's what I did. And I met a lot of friends there. So I love my experience. I'm going back there again in February for a wedding. So one of my friends who I met in Cape Town, she's from London, but she has her wedding coming up in Cape Town this February. So I'm going back. I'm excited for that. So I spent a couple months there. Then I came back to North America. I was still making some fashion content and even some memes content, like just like jokes, comedy, transitions. I was experimenting with a lot of different styles because it was my first time really having the time to make content, and so much has changed because I was making like Instagram pictures when I had a bit of time in university. Now everything's video. So a lot of this was new to me. And I was just learning different styles. And again, like I mentioned, some of my career content pieces got a bit of traction. I officially started the career account. Like I made the handle and created it in late May or so, like around May, summer of 2024. And started posting a few things, and then a couple of things got a bit of traction. Some of my consulting content. And then little by little, I just had these opportunities fly in. Like from coaching requests to like UGC content to like brand collaborations, affiliates, and everything just kind of kept snowballing from there.
So you mentioned how you started it in May of 2024. What were you posting in the early days? You mentioned how it's a wide variety of stuff, but let's say you're talking to a friend who's a consultant right now, and you were advising them and recommending them and helping them think through what they should post on their account.
Yeah, I just gave career advice, a lot of FAQs that people asked me. One of the videos that went viral, I did not expect this. It was, how many hours did I work? Because people don't know. And there's like a lot of debate about, oh, like, is this insane? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you working so many hours? But I made that video just because a lot of people were asking about it. So I made one that took off. And also just content about, oh, why did I do consulting over investment banking? Why did I do consulting instead of sales and trading? Just a little bit about my own experience and my stories. And people are interested because I think many other people are thinking about the similar transitions, or they're trying to choose career paths and they're just curious. That was a bit of my earlier content. And then now on that account, I'm still exploring. It's again still early to me, but I launched a communication series recently to teach people best practices and tips of how to communicate better at work. I will have an interview series coming up too, and a couple others in the horizon.
Nice. I often recommend a great book about this. Is called Show Your Work. And it's by this author named Austin Kleon. And it kind of answers the question here, which is when you have a busy professional job, you're a consultant, you're a software engineer, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're doing something else with your time, what do you actually create? And the answer is just to show your work, which is exactly what you did. You were making basically just like sharing your experience, right? Answering common questions. And that really took off and helped build your brand. So my general recommendation is the easiest thing to make content about is what you're already an expert in. So just share advice for people who are entering your field, about your company, just general questions that they have. So Kelly, tell me, so you started in May of 2024. At what point did you start to see some like actual traction in terms of followers? And then when did like the deals for other brands and coaching come in?
A bit of my initial traction happened within the first 10 posts, because one of those 10 posts was the hours post. And I actually started posting a bit of this stuff on TikTok. So on TikTok, I like got a bit of traction that I repackaged my TikTok, because initially my TikTok was like my fashion account, fashion and travel for fun. I repackaged it to just the career account. Then on Instagram, I made this new account. So within those first 10 posts, I was like, oh, wait, there's like a bit of traction here. That's kind of cool. And that was around May. And very shortly after that, like I also post actually on the Chinese app Red. So on Red and Instagram, very shortly, I'm getting these DMs saying, oh, like I'm recruiting for consulting. Like, do you do mentorship packages and like, these things? And I decided to launch that. So I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So some of my first initial like monetization streams were one-on-one coaching. And then also some brand collaborations started coming in. It was like low. I also didn't really know what rates to work with, but I thought it was just interesting to learn how to do a brand collaboration in the first place. Like, oh, this is how brands would negotiate with me. These are the contracts we need to sign. In the career space, like I did a couple of small brand collaborations on my fashion side, but the career niche is also a little bit different, and the way you make the content is also a bit different. And I think all of that happened actually pretty soon. And then some agencies started reaching out. So throughout fall, I was working with a couple of different agencies, one of which kept sending me these like UGC deals. And I didn't really realize what the UGC space was. And I'm still not planning to do that as my main thing, because it's like making content for brands for them to post. I still do some of it. I think that the rates that you can charge in the UGC space can actually be quite high, especially if you think about like the per hour basis. And I was getting some of these deals from the agency. I was like, oh, could be a good chance for me to practice my content creation, learn about like, what companies are looking for these UGC scripts. So I started doing some of that, and that was like decent monetization too, in addition to brand deals as well as one-on-one coaching. And that happened throughout fall. And then this year, things started picking up a lot more. So I don't do any outbound. And then this year, I've had to say no to a lot of work from the agencies that are below my rates that I can accept on a per hour basis right now. I also have 2 editors working with me. So one of them is part-time dedicated to me. Another one is from Upwork. And I needed the editors because I don't like editing my own videos for the most part, especially when it's like the talking head style. And I'm also not going to be as good as like they are. So my editors are great, and that's how I can also have the capacity to take on these UGC things as well as maintain all the other things I'm doing.
All right, quick break. If you're trying to leave the 9 to 5 and build a business, this book has to be on your desk. $100 Million Money Models by Alex Hormozi. The whole $100 million series genuinely changed the game for me. It helped me nail offer structure, pricing and packaging, and how to pick models that actually scale, not just sound good on paper. I credit this series to helping me build $1 million business in my 20s after leaving my corporate job. Now here's the fun part. I bought 200 copies to give away to listeners who want to start or level up their business. Here's how to get yours. You need to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. In honest review, you can say whatever you want, screenshot it, and just email the screenshot to reviews@manazir.org. We'll then send you a link to claim a free copy. We cover the cost of the book, you just cover shipping. That's it. If you want the ultimate resource to get serious about your offer and revenue model, this is it. So just leave a review, screenshot it, and email us. There are only 200 copies available, so do this as fast as possible. All right, back to the episode. Let's actually define UGC. I think that's something, to be completely honest, I had never even heard of UGC before this month or the month before, which is shocking because I've been doing this for like 5 years now. So now I'm like spotting it everywhere. And now since you mentioned it, it's kind of like that effect where you hear about something and then you see it everywhere. And that's exactly what I'm noticing with UGC. So could you define what that is and how someone gets started with that if they're new to content?
UGC, user-generated content. So many brands will pay you to make content for them and they will post it or run ads from it and they just want a video from you. And you can charge like many hundreds of dollars for this one piece of video that you're not even posting, which is great on a per hour income basis. So I think the UGC space is awesome, pretty lucrative. And how can you get started? There are many UGC coaches out there, so maybe check out some of their profiles, and they share a lot of great tips. I didn't expect this. I just landed into it because inbound, I just get these from inbound. Like I'm not reaching out to them saying, hey, like I am pitching my UGC portfolio. They see that my content, I think they like some of the content styles that they're seeing on my profile that are created by my editor. And they reach out and they say, hey, like, do you want to create some content for us? UGC or brand collaborations. Sometimes if they say, well, do you want to collaborate on your profile? And I don't have the capacity on my profile because I can't just like keep posting ads. I might revert back and say, well, I can't do this brand collaboration, but if you want, I can make a UGC piece for you instead. And you can post it or run ads or, do what you like with it. I think it's a really fun space, especially if you're someone who likes making videos and content and you want to get paid like a couple $100 per just like that one video. I think it's great.
So what kind of brands are reaching out to you on this? And why don't they just use an actor? Is the real reason because they want you to be like, hi, I'm Kelly from Kelly Career Mode and I use this product to do X, Y, and Z, and they just run that as ads? Like, why do they reach out to you for UGC and why not just use talent internally at the company?
I think many companies don't have the capacity to hire specific people just for, like videos, like being in the videos, like the actor talents. There are some companies who actually, I actually love doing this. So a part of my work too, I don't need to produce these videos. I get the raw script and I provide them the raw footage. And they take the footage and they edit it, but they still compensate you very well for it. So you're kind of like this actor on demand for them. I think it's really fun. And I think that the reason why they want other people to create UGC is because everyone has their own different styles. I'm typically not saying I'm Kelly from Kelly Career Mode, but I think they like my profile because they see that I'm well-versed in business and education, technology topics. So if they're like an AI startup or they are off like a platform related to the business space or productivity space, at least they know that I can speak the lingo and I can script if I need to script. I can script in ways that make sense because I understand this industry. And maybe they like how I was talking about things on my account. Like, oh, I like the way that you explain these things. I like the way that you edit these things. And I just want your specific style. So that's why they reach out to me instead of trying to make it all from scratch internally.
Do they pay you more because you have a following? Or is it kind of standard across all UGC?
I think that UGC, you don't need a following to charge a higher amount. I'm not the expert in this, but because you're not posting on your own profile, I think the quality of your content matters a lot more in terms of what you can charge. But maybe someone would pay you more if they feel like you're just someone who has this like credibility and you're able to speak to it better than someone who is unable to script it or describe something the way that they want it to.
What are some common UGC rates? Like what's like a general average that you get for a certain length of video?
It can range a fair bit, right? Like I would say you can, I'll speak for the industry broadly. Maybe you can get paid $200 for a UGC video. Maybe you can get paid over $1,000 for a UGC video. And I personally right now, like I would avoid anything that's like $200 is just not really worth my time per the piece of content. So then you can negotiate something like several hundred. And if they're running ads for it, or they want a longer video, or like, you know, high quality DSLR filming or editing, then you can charge, like you can go up to closer to 1,000 even.
Nice. So let's talk about the other areas of content monetization that worked for you. So you said there was coaching, sponsorships, and UGC. So could you actually talk to me like what were the numbers there with each of those kind of in general month by month? And then what do they look like today in terms of like the percent of revenue for the business with each of these areas?
Every single month looks a little bit different, and I like it. I think it's kind of exciting. I will say like earlier this year in the wintertime, I was in Vietnam, and I was like still really new. So I was taking a lot of these UGC projects, but I felt like it was like too much. Like it was taking up too much of my time that I should have been spending that time to build up my own content and audience and my digital products instead. I just didn't feel like I leveraged that time well, because all these UGC pieces were so piecemeal and so like scattered, and taking up way more time than I expected. But because I spent a lot of time on that, like UGC stuff was like a pretty big chunk of my income in the winter months. And then we slowly got into the spring and summer. And then on some months, like I was doing more than 40 hours of coaching calls for several of those months. And that was like a fair chunk of the overall. Then some months you have brand collaborations, because maybe one month you have like 2 really big brand deals, and then that just takes up a really big percentage. And then you've layered that on with some other smaller UGCs. It almost feels like if I had to summarize everything, it could even be like almost like a kind of even mix: brand collaborations, UGC, coaching. Maybe it's almost like 1/3 each, give or take. I haven't really run the numbers. I should look into this though, like just add it all up by year end and see what the percentages actually look like. But my like gut sense, like just thinking back, I feel like it's about like an even split if I look back at the whole year so far.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's been about 15, 16 months since you kind of went all in on your own brand, on your Instagram, TikTok, and brand deals, coaching. So tell me, like, where are we at in terms of your revenue matching your consulting income, and where do you expect the future to go there?
Yeah. And so surprisingly, I also did not expect this. And I, like, for the most of this entire year of 2025, my post-tax income, because now we have to think about it like post-tax, because now my tax is like, I do the C Corp taxation, like the tax structure just looks a little bit different. My post-tax income is actually very similar to my BCG salary, excluding the bonus. So my BCG salary monthly compared to now post-tax is very similar. It's like a little bit shy of it, but I'm very comfortable with that. Like I'm okay with that. This is way more than what I would have expected, just given I personally feel like this year, like what I feel like I messed up on really is I think that I just spent like way too much time on like just as during the learning period, a lot of smaller fragmented deals, right? Like putting my time into smaller bits and pieces instead of just, again, building more of my audience and more of my content and digital products. And now I need to do a lot more of that to kind of like catch up a bit. But even then, like, even though I did feel like I did this mess up, even so, I'm like pleasantly surprised at like the income that I've been able to generate so far this year. I did not expect that. Given, again, like my account to me is still very small. I'm not doing any outbound. And so I'm really grateful that this has been my experience this year.
Yeah, that's honestly, congratulations. That's massive win to be able to do that in just a year. And also, I feel like the big point here is that you did not start this while you were working. Like, you quit then started from scratch, and within a year you were matching your consulting income and basically like more than enough to live your life. So my next question here is, why do you think you were able to do that in just less than a year?
Hmm. I think that it came down to a few things. One, the consulting niche is in high demand. And if it wasn't in high demand, I don't think I would have received as many of my coaching inquiries, right? Like, so that's one chunk of revenue that would have just entirely disappeared. Because a lot of the people who come to talk to me, and not everyone wants to do consulting. Actually, I provide general career and interview guidance. Like, I've helped people structure resumes, recruit for corporate jobs, prepare for behavioral interviews, and but many people do come for consulting. So one, consulting as a niche is very in high demand. Second, I think that brands might be willing to pay a bit more for my account because the editing quality is good. So even if it's a small account, the brand image and the editing and the quality of the output, I think brands still like it and want to be associated with it. So that, I think, helps command potentially higher rates. Maybe I still need to get better at negotiating even higher rates. I'm not sure. I think that I've also been very, I think, like, when it comes to the UGCs, I think I've been very fortunate that even though it's not what I want to focus so much of my time on going forward, I am fortunate that they are coming in, like a ton of these are coming in inbound, and I could negotiate a lot of these rates since I just, because of capacity constraints, I actually just can't take on anything that's low. So now I'm like, I literally can't take this on. I have to just ask for a higher rate. And many brands are actually saying yes to it. Then this all aside, I do think and hope that I'm working with them in the right way, as in I do try to be a good partner to collaborate with. I do try to give high quality output and deliverables and give structure to things like timelines, high quality scripting, good iterations, good speed to output, right? Like, so it's nowhere near as intense as what my consulting job was, but I'm trying to still bring some of that dedication to quality over into everything I do with any of my clients right now. So I get a lot of repeat clients too. And sometimes they repeat, and to my surprise, they are like proactively raising their rates for me, which, like, it's great. That has happened a few times. And to me, it's like, oh, really? Like, I was actually like going off our old rate, but if you are like increasing it like yourself, I will, like, that's awesome. Like, thank you so much. Like that, I think that's like, that shows that you appreciate my work. That's awesome.
Do you think anyone can do what you did in a year? Or do you feel like there were certain factors that helped you along your journey that kind of made you stand out?
I feel like if you have a good like work ethic and your content resonates with people, you're building a good brand reputation, and you're like being open to managing your inbox, replying promptly, right? Like, just overall like doing good work. I don't see like why it should be that difficult. I know that people, especially if they're doing UGC's work, many are earning like 10,000 or even more every single month just on UGC alone, and that's their full-time job. Like, their full-time job is to be a UGC content creator, and they're like taking on a ton of these collaborations and negotiating like several hundred per video. So I know that's a whole industry, and people are doing really well in it.
So what do you feel like is easier, being a creator slash entrepreneur or being a consultant?
Oh my God, being a creator entrepreneur. Oh my God. So, oh my goodness. So like I don't, so like, let me just preface this by saying I don't want to mislead people to think that, oh gosh, like I'm going to quit my job right now and follow like what Kelly did and just be a creator with nothing lined up. Like, this is not what the message I want to give out to people, because I think my situation was very specific to me. Many factors came into play and so on. But oh my goodness, like, I think that the hours I've worked, I could be working way more hours on my content empire. I could be way more productive. I feel like this entire year I have not been as just like productive as I should be. I should be growing my audience way more actually. Like, so I feel like right now, like to me, like in my mind, I feel like I personally just like slacked off all year of 2025, like lived this like very slow, slacked, like social, goes to the gym, goes to coffee walks, like maybe I'm late to like, not late, but like still good, but like I'm not replying to emails the same day. Like I'm just like, oh, I'll get to it tomorrow, like, you know, all of that. I feel like really relaxed. And in consulting, I would never feel this way. In consulting, I'm giving 110% just to stay afloat. Like I had so much white hair in my early mid 20s in consulting, and I still think it's a great boot camp. I'm so glad I did it, but the stress and the intensity, it's a lot. And I think that if I were to start my own company, like a own business, like a startup, I think that would end up getting really crazy too, for sure. But right now, what I'm doing when it comes to just like content, making videos, and I'll be launching some digital products. It's not like intensely like active management and maintenance every day, right? Even after I launch it, there will be a lot of work, but it's not like so crazy like the way consulting was. Like my job right now and what I'm doing to generate income does not compare to the stress of consulting.
So one big thing I've noticed with your brand is that, actually, you tell me, like, how many followers do you have on each platform currently?
Right now in Kelly Career Mode, it's about 30,000 on Instagram. So that's why I say like still super baby accounts. Almost 10,000 on Rednote, like the Chinese app, and 13,000 or so on TikTok. Almost there. So I'm rounding up the numbers just slightly.
Nice. So what I want to call attention to here is, I think a lot of people think you have to have millions of followers to make a full-time income. I actually told a friend last year when I quit my job that I quit and I was doing this full time, and he was like, bro, don't you have to have like 2-3 million followers to even, you know, put food on the table? This is a clear counterexample to that. You're making $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a month of income with 30,000, 10,000, 13,000 followers, not millions, right? And same with me, right? I don't have millions of followers, yet I'm able to like pay for pretty much everything I want in terms of my lifestyle, right? So what do you think the answer is? Do you think people are able to create a successful business with this following, or what's your advice there?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I just did a collaboration recently with Teachable on digital products. I haven't even launched my digital products yet. I'm like, this is what I mean. Like, oh my God, this year I've been so like personally just like, oh, too slack. I need to enter that lock-in era.
The great lock-in.
Yeah, I need to enter this great lock-in era ASAP, actually. But I think once I launch my digital products with my current following, even I almost like expect my digital products to exceed all three of these revenue sources combined. And I haven't launched it yet. So my answer is yes, absolutely. You can create a solid income of a small following base. Let's say you, so I'm actually also not at the $25,000 per month income yet, but definitely want to be once these digital products come out. But just to give you like an estimate of numbers, right? Let's say you have like a small-ish account. Let's say you have 20,000, 30,000 followers on Instagram. You do brand deals and you can negotiate anything between $1,000 to maybe $2,000 per brand deal, depending on the package, maybe even more. I don't want to limit anyone. But I'm just giving like, you know, generalized numbers here. So you do a couple of those a month. That takes you to like, let's say anything between like $4,000 to $8,000. Maybe, right? Maybe not every single one will be that high. Maybe it's a bit lower. So just, you know, plus or minus everything I'm saying right now. I'm also being like slightly optimistic. Then you'd also do a couple of UGC campaigns. Maybe you do like on average, like 10 or 15, and you're getting paid in total for these 10 or 15, like another like $4,000 to $6,000. Then you do some coaching. Let's say you do a couple, like, you know, 20 hours or so, add in like $2,000. And if you have a digital product and that digital product sells for $50, even if you just get, 100 sales between you promoting it, maybe you promote it on some other channels, maybe you like even pay other creators to shout it out for you. If you generate 100 sales a month of that digital product, that's $5,000 as well, right? So when you add all of that up, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, this is what's interesting here is I think the modern day creator has multiple streams of income, whereas the modern business usually just has a business, right? They don't have multiple streams. So I think this is really inspiring because it shows that you don't have to be like to the moon with any one of these things. You can just have like decent traction with some sponsorships, some UGC, some coaching on the side, some digital products. And then that all together can kind of add up to that glorious 10K a month.
Yeah, like more than 10K. Yeah, you can definitely do more than 10K. Yeah. I think over 10K, like if just like UGC alone, if you're doing that, it can be over 10K a month for the people who are like a lot more invested and focused in that. Then for the digital products, I know some other creators, they're also bigger, but they launched their digital products. It's like the first couple months, they're selling many thousands of these products. And if you think about it, if your product is priced at even like just $30, if you sell 1,000, that's $30,000 in the first few months. It's a continuous product, right? You have to refresh it, or maybe you retire it after a few years. But I think the lifespan of these, it's it's not like you have to retire it after just a few months. It's probably like a few years, depending on what you're selling. Yeah.
So Kelly, if you're sitting down with someone who's a burnt out consultant, what's one piece of advice you have for them if they want to go off and build their own thing?
I would say, if you are working in consulting, you're burnt out, you want to take the leap, think about ways that you can set yourself up to explore these opportunities in safe ways. Maybe while you're in consulting, you're too busy to actually get the product or service that you're building started because you're just so busy. Maybe you can at least use the time to talk to people and learn about like, what could be like, what could be interesting to do, like maybe set up something to structure in a foundation, even learning things like, legally, how do I set up my corporation? What about like accounting and taxes and stuff? Like these are things that you can kind of like learn gradually, and people often overlook stuff like taxes, like legal, accounting, and they're like, oh no, like now the business is already like generating revenue. Now I like have it's like a mess, like all my expenses are a mess. If you set these like basic foundations up, or at least know how to before you like quit your job, you'll just feel a lot more refreshed, I think, and feel like, like at least I have these things handled, instead of, now I'm stressed about like how does an LLC work? How am I gonna report my taxes as you're trying to like generate revenue as well and acquire customers, right? So want to make it a bit safe, and then think about your runway to explore. And maybe you don't need to quit your job entirely. Maybe you can do something like part-time. Maybe you just like shift into like a less demanding role, or something that you can contribute like half your time to, and just free up more capacity instead of going outright like, now I'm going to cut off income entirely. So even though like I myself didn't do that because I fully expected to just take a year off to travel and just live my life, that's also what I did instead of doing the MBA, by the way. The MBA, I was thinking it would be 2 years, a lot of time, and a lot of money, like hundreds of thousands, right? So like I was like, you know what, I'm still saving money this way. But anyway, so I would say even though I didn't do it, I still think it's really important to plan these steps out in safe ways and try to actually just see like, these are just some of the low-hanging things I can just learn about right now that will really help me be informed. Then what do I do about my finances? What's my runway? Are there alternatives beyond like in between full out quitting or having this like full-time busy job, right? And what are some milestones I would hit to make myself feel comfortable? Like what are these before, maybe if you start something before your full-time job ends, where do I need to be for me to say, well, now I'm going to pull the trigger? Another thing that people fall in a trap with is if you feel like, well, I like, you know, I have like this amount of savings, or like my business is like doing this much, but now I still don't want to quit because it just feels really scary. And maybe I just reached the next milestone or the next milestone, and then I just kind of drag it on. I think it's still important to be clear. And then when you feel like now, if I don't leave now and spend more time on my business, I'm not going to be able to take it from like that like 0 point something % to like, you know, all the way to a 1. And I need that time. And maybe that's when you also think about actually making that jump.
Nice. Kelly, thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome to speak with you. And hopefully this was helpful. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's today's episode of Liftoff. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you want early access to every single one of these episodes, head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other podcast app of choice and follow Liftoff with Aman Manazir. That's right, you can listen to every episode early on the podcast apps before they get released on YouTube. So make sure to go over and follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, turn on notifications, or check the links in the description. And finally, always remember, the night is darkest before the dawn. I'll see you in the next one.